It's an open secret in New York City's elite circles that no one is allowed to touch the cheap and garish bracelet on the wrist of Sophia, the Vanderbilt family CEO. Rumor has it that the last person who tried disappeared without a trace. During every sleepless night, the great Miss Vanderbilt would stare at that bracelet and wail uncontrollably. No one knows that the bracelet was a 999 Street stall trinket I bought for her, and it's the only thing of mine that still exists in this world. A few years ago, I died in my original world and was bound to a system, thrust into a redemption novel. Only by successfully redeeming the beautiful but unstable secondary female character, Sophia, could I be resurrected in my own world. After years of companionship and strategic effort, I finally became her first love. It went so far that when her frenemy kidnapped me and demanded Sophia cripple one of her own legs in exchange for my safety, she didn't hesitate for a second, crippling both her legs instead. From that moment on, the golden child of society became disabled, confined to a wheelchair for the rest of her life, and at that exact moment, my mission was a complete success. After the mission ended, Sophia's love for me became obsessive. She would descend into madness if I was out of her sight for even a minute. Being loved so deeply, everyone assumed I must be blissful, but at this moment, I couldn't manage a smile. Sophia looked up at me, her icy gaze instantly softening with affection. Her eyes focused solely on me, as if I were the only person in the world. We went to a restaurant she had booked, but I remained sullen and quiet. Sophia, thinking I had witnessed that earlier scene, quickly apologized. "Oliver, are you angry? I didn't let him touch it. Please don't ignore me, okay?" When I didn't answer, Sophia grew even more anxious. "What's been wrong lately? Why do you seem so unhappy all the time?" I slowly lifted my gaze, my expression still faint. "Sophia, are you sure there's nothing you want to tell me?" Sophia seemed taken aback by my sudden question, her fingers unconsciously rubbing together, a subconscious tell when she was nervous that I saw clearly. Yet she still shook her head. "No, there's nothing." A dull ache spread through my chest, but I didn't press further. As dinner concluded, a waiter brought over the cake Sophia had ordered in advance. The lights were dimmed, and just as I closed my eyes to make a wish, the quiet room was interrupted by the vibration of a phone. I opened my eyes just in time to see Sophia swiping her screen open, reading an incoming message. I watched as her brow furrowed and the hand holding the phone began to tremble. The next moment, Sophia's thoughts echoed in my mind. "He's just a boy, so reckless. I should probably go check on him." My face turned pale, my heart clenching painfully. No one knew that before the system vanished, it had granted me one final gift, to hear Sophia's thoughts. For all these years, her mind had been filled with nothing but me, but 3 months ago, a boy's name began to appear frequently in her thoughts. Peter. He was her best friend's younger brother, a recent college graduate she had placed in her company for experience. Before I could process it, her thoughts rang out again. "But it's our 7th anniversary today. Would it be wrong to leave now?" As she hesitated, her phone screen lit up once more. Peter had sent several more messages. This time, Sophia couldn't sit still. She hastily closed her phone, told me there was an urgent matter at the office waiting for her, and had her assistant wheel her away in a hurry. Watching Sophia's receding figure, my heart sank to the bottom of a pit. In all our years together, Sophia had never lied to me, but ever since Peter appeared, her lies began to pile up one after another. I tried to summon the system, wanting to see how much of her love for me remained, but no matter how I called out, there was no response. It was then I realized that ever since I decided to stay in this world, the system had vanished completely. When I chose to stay, I was betting that Sophia would never let me lose. Now I wasn't so sure. I slept poorly that night, and in the middle of it, a thunderstorm rolled in. At some point, Sophia had returned. She must have been trying to be quiet so as not to wake me, because I only just noticed her. She knew how much I hated thunderstorms, so even in her deep sleep, she would reflexively pull me into her arms. Looking at the beautiful, enchanting woman sleeping beside me, my mind once again fell into deep thought. Could someone who loved me this deeply really fall for someone else? But in the next second, I saw it. A large, fresh hickey on her neck. Early in the morning, when Sophia awoke, she found my side of the bed empty. A wave of panic washed over her, and without even grabbing a coat, She rushed out of the room. After a frantic search, she finally found me in the garden, sitting alone on a bench, staring into space. Hearing the commotion, I slowly turned my head. Sophia had apparently fallen. Her usually immaculate pajamas were stained with dirt, and her face was filled with worry and panic. Ever since the kidnapping, Sophia's need to have me in her sight had intensified. Waking up and not seeing me sent her into a particular state of alarm. Seeing me safe now, she rushed forward and threw herself into my arms. Oliver, don't you ever disappear from my sight like that again. I get so worried. She buried her face in my chest, and I heard her thoughts. Thank God Oliver is okay. If anything else happens to him, I can't go on living. My heart trembled. I slowly raised my head and finally spoke. What's that red mark on your neck? Sophia's hand unconsciously went to the spot, and she paused for a moment before explaining. It must have been a mosquito bite. I gave a bitter smile. Are there still mosquitoes in the fall? Seeing my empty eyes, Sophia finally seemed to understand. So this is why you've been unhappy all these days, because you're afraid I... She didn't finish her thought, instead wrapping her arms around my neck and whispering, Oliver, I will only ever love you in this life. If my heart ever belongs to another, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Hearing such a gruesome oath, I couldn't bear it and covered her mouth. Don't say it. I believe you. I looked at her, and her gaze was firm and sincere. Sophia, if you ever do fall in love with someone else, you have to tell me. I won't cling to you. But if you lie to me, you will never see me again. Sophia's body trembled, and she instinctively held me tighter. That will never happen, Oliver. You're the only one in my heart. I can't lose you, and you can never leave me. She pressed herself against my chest, and I tried to listen for more, but that was the only thought she had. I sighed internally. Maybe I really was overthinking things. Soon our 7th anniversary arrived. That morning, I went out to the garden for some fresh air. Sophia seemed to be out, and the maids had finished their cleaning early and left. The entire villa was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I looked at the garden full of lilies and couldn't help but get lost in memories. Sophia had planted all these flowers for me herself, collecting the best lily seeds from all over the world. The swing set by the wall was one we built together. She said that when we had children, we could push them on it together. The wooden fence posts had all been carefully sanded down by a craftsman just because I had once scraped myself on one during a late-night stroll. She said she never wanted me to get even the slightest scratch again. She would pluck the stars from the sky for me if I asked. What was real and what was fake? Her adoration was real. Her care for me was real. But her betrayal was also real. I couldn't stand to face the garden of lilies anymore and turned to leave. Just then, the headlights of a car cut through the trees, and the car stopped about 50 yards from the gate. A moment later, Sophia and Peter got out of the car together. She walked with ease, her legs clearly as normal as anyone's. I was thunderstruck. When had Sophia's legs healed? How did I not know? I stood there stunned, watching as Peter walked up to her and wrapped his arm intimately around her waist. Sophia, can't you stay with me a little longer? Sophia raised an eyebrow. Wasn't what we just did enough? Peter lowered his head shyly, nuzzling her nose like a kitten, and asked coyly, Oliver isn't going out anyway. Why don't I just stay the night with you? At the mention of my name, Sophia's expression changed. She coldly pulled his arm off her, and her tone became icy. Don't you dare get any ideas about Oliver. I'm warning you. Stay away from him. If you let him find out about us, you know the consequences. Peter nodded. I know. Don't be mad. It was just a suggestion. But there's one thing I really want to do. You really love Oliver. If you don't, why would you pretend to be disabled just to keep him? And if you do love him, then what am I? He smiled with a brazen confidence. Sophia stared at him coldly for a long time before finally speaking. My heart loves only him. No one can compare. I stumbled backward step by step, then fled back to my room. Why was she doing this to me? What else was she hiding? I didn't understand what Sophia wanted. Was she hiding the fact that her legs were healed just to keep me, to ensure I would stay by her side, completely devoted and never leave? I had stayed because of her sincerity, but now I learned that even that sincerity was a lie. One thing after another, the revelations destroyed my defenses, leaving me utterly defeated. I regretted it so much, regretted falling in love with Sophia, and even more, I regretted staying in this strange world for her. The pain in my heart was unbearable. I clutched my chest, feeling as if I were about to drown in an abyss. Just as I was about to collapse, I remembered something. Before the system disappeared, it had left me a small pouch. The system had said that if I ever regretted my decision, I could open it. Like a madman, I rushed to the cabinet and tore everything out, finally finding what the system had left me in the bottom drawer. I opened the pouch. Inside was a single line of text. Never bet on a woman's heart. You will never win. Protagonist, if you regret your choice and want to go back, there is only one last way. Late that night, I went up to the rooftop alone. It was already early winter, and the night wind was exceptionally cold. I stood on the edge of the roof, looking down at the glittering city lights and the shrunken cars and trees below, and the system's words came back to me. To be reborn, one must first face death. If I jumped from here, would I return to my original world, or would I disappear completely? I didn't know. The only thing I knew for sure was that no matter my destination, Sophia and I would never see each other again. I took my phone out of my pocket and dialed the number I knew by heart. The call connected quickly. Sophia's voice was as gentle as ever. Oliver, what's wrong? I stared blankly into the distance, my voice light and airy. Where are you right now? Sophia's voice was low, filled with concern for me. I'm at the office. Are you feeling any better? Did you eat properly today? I managed a faint smile, my expression still blank. I suddenly craved the red bean cakes from the Hamptons. In the past, no matter how late it was, if I said I wanted to eat something, she would get up even if she was already asleep and personally go buy it for me. Once, it was in the middle of the night and snowing heavily, but she still drove for 3 hours through the storm to get what I wanted. I had been so heartbroken then, holding her cold hands in mine to warm them, thinking that I could never be with anyone but her. Now, on the other end of the line, Sophia paused, then replied, The company is really busy today. I have to sleep at the office and can't come back. How about I go buy them and bring them to you first thing in the morning? For the first time, I was direct. But I want to eat them now. Sophia hesitated for a moment, but still refused me. I really can't get away right now. Tomorrow I'll bring back as many as you want. As she finished speaking, a soft laugh came from her end of the line. Though it was faint, I immediately recognized it as Peter's voice. Sophia coughed hastily to cover it up, but on my end, I let out a sarcastic laugh. 7 years of deep love, all for nothing. I wiped away a tear from the corner of my eye, my gaze suddenly firm and merciless. Never mind. I don't want them anymore. With that, I hung up the phone. My eyes drifted over the brilliant sea of lights before me. This wasn't my world. I had once dreamed that among these thousands of lights, one would be shining for Sophia and me, but now she had destroyed it all with her own hands. Sophia, from now on, we will never meet again, in this life or the next. I slowly opened my arms, and the next second a loud thud echoed from the building. The next day, Sophia's heart suddenly clenched in a sharp pain. For some reason, she had a terrible premonition. She pushed Peter aside, hurriedly dressed, and rushed out. Behind her, Peter followed with a wheelchair, his face hiding a hint of jealousy. Look at you. You even forget to pretend when you're in a hurry. I'm so jealous of Oliver. You'd even fake being a cripple just to get him to marry you. When will I ever be that important to you? Sophia's red lips tightened into a thin line. Normally, seeing Peter jealous and pouting, she would have comforted him, but recalling my strange phone call from last night, an inexplicable unease filled her heart, leaving no room to care about his feelings. She coldly took the wheelchair, got in her car, and drove straight to the pastry shop in the Hamptons. After buying my favorite red bean cakes, she rushed back home. As she opened the door, she couldn't help but call my name. Oliver, I bought the red bean cakes you love, she called out a few times, but there was no response from inside the house. It wasn't until she pushed the door open that she was stunned by the scene before her. The entire floor of the room was covered in scattered papers. Picking one up, she saw it was a printout of her chat history with Peter, along with explicit, intimate photos of them in bed. In that moment, she was struck by lightning. Who put these here? Did Oliver see them? Her heart felt as if it had been brutally gouged out. She frantically pulled her phone from her pocket, her whole body trembling as she found my number, but when she dialed, the call went straight to voicemail. Sophia completely panicked. She couldn't even begin to imagine my reaction and the consequences of me finding out. She dialed the number, which was already off, over and over again, almost manically. Just then, another number called her. She frantically pressed the answer button without even looking at the caller ID and put the phone to her ear, her voice almost pleading. "Oliver, don't leave me. I can explain." The person on the other end was silent for a moment before speaking. "Miss Vanderbilt, please accept our condolences. Mr. Oliver jumped from a rooftop last night and has been confirmed deceased. Please come to the morgue to identify the body." The woman on the other end of the line was silent for a moment, then let out a soft laugh. "Oliver is just being difficult and colluding with you to trick me, isn't he?" "Put him on the phone," Sophia said seriously. "Oliver, are you listening? I'm sorry, but you can't trick me with things like this, okay?" The staff member was at a loss. In all his years at the funeral home, he had seen many family members who couldn't accept the death of a loved one. But Sophia's reaction was clearly beyond his ability to handle. He offered a pale, futile attempt at comfort. "Miss Vanderbilt, it would be best if you came in person. The location is the city morgue." "Who are you?" Sophia's tone became agitated when she didn't hear my voice. "Are you trying to scam me for money? Even if you're kidnapping him, you have to put Oliver on the phone." I need to hear his voice. Seeing that communication was impossible, he simply said, "Miss Vanderbilt, you will be able to see Mr. Oliver when you get here." He hung up and sighed heavily, turning to the mortician beside him. "You should hurry up and clean up Mr. Oliver's body. We won't be able to handle her when she arrives. And get security arranged for security, too." Sophia stared at the disconnected phone in her hand and suddenly laughed. She muttered to herself, "Such a clumsy lie, Oliver. You're so silly, trying to trick me like this." But a gray fog had settled over her heart, and all outside sounds became difficult to hear. She stood there for a long time, her phone gripped so tightly it creaked. "Sophia," she murmured, "when I find you, Oliver, I will apologize to you. I'm sorry, so sorry, but you can't scare me with things like this." Her eyes slowly reddened and bloodshot veins appeared. In a daze, she walked to the entrance of a flower shop. The owner, who knew her well, greeted her with a smile. "Miss Vanderbilt, buying flowers for your husband again? We just got a fresh batch of the finest lilies today. Would you like some?" "Yes," Sophia said. "He likes very large bouquets. Please arrange one for me." The owner worked quickly and soon handed the bouquet to Sophia. "Mr. Oliver is so lucky. Is today a special occasion?" "I'm going to apologize to him," Sophia said, her smile stiff. "I made him angry." "Oh, I see. Well, as long as it's not a major issue, Mr. Oliver will surely forgive you when he sees the flowers. Take care, Miss Vanderbilt." She paid with her card, perhaps not looking at the amount or perhaps not caring, and ended up paying tens of thousands of dollars. The owner, hearing the payment notification, was so shocked he chased after her for a few steps, calling out, "Miss Vanderbilt, Miss Vanderbilt," but she had already walked away. The owner, unable to catch up, could only say, "I'll just add it to her account. Miss Vanderbilt is always buying flowers for her beloved here anyway." Sophia walked for nearly a mile before realizing how much attention she was drawing. Many people on the street were secretly taking out their phones to film her. Such a beautiful woman holding a huge bouquet of flowers was a sight to behold. She had forgotten her driver was on leave and had to hail a cab. The driver said cheerfully, "Where to? Are you going to confess your love?" "The morgue," Sophia said faintly, in a daze. "I'm going to apologize." The driver's expression instantly became awkward. "My condolences. Please don't be too sad." "He's not dead," Sophia thought, but she didn't want to explain to anyone and just smiled at the driver. There was a traffic jam on the way, and she called me again. She wanted to hear my rebukes and angry shouts. She wouldn't be afraid even if I slapped her or demanded a divorce. She would spend the rest of her life atoning, showing me that she truly knew she was wrong. Oliver was so soft-hearted. He would eventually be won over by her again. He could never bear to see her hurt. 1,000 ways to win me back flashed through her mind, and a flicker of hopeful determination arose. The lilies in her hands exuded a faint, clean fragrance. There had to be a way, Sophia thought. The city morgue was large and smelled of the hot, strange odor of a working furnace. She got out of the car, a pang of heartache in her eyes. "I'm so meticulous about cleanliness," Sophia remembered. She had made a mistake, and now I was forced to stay in a place like this. Who was this a punishment for? "You fool," she whispered. "You couldn't even pick a more comfortable place or a more believable lie. How could I ever bear to jump off a building? After forcefully dismissing all the pointless speculations in her mind, Sophia finally urged her disobedient feet to move forward. She saw a staff member in a black uniform, his face showing a hint of distress as he complained to the person next to him. I really wish people who commit suicide wouldn't choose jumping. It's just too difficult to handle. All his bones are shattered, and there's a huge hole in the back of his head. His brain matter is almost all gone. Yeah, Sophia silently thought, feeling utterly helpless. They could even invent such a gruesome cause of death to scare her. There's only been one suicide by jumping in the last 2 days, right? What was his name? It was that rich Sophia Vanderbilt's husband. No way. So rich and still committing suicide? I don't get it. Sophia stared at them blankly, and after a moment, she almost laughed. He even colluded with the staff to trick me. But can you please stop talking? Sophia thought. She was really scared now. If this was a ploy I had come up with to punish her, then I had succeeded. Miss Vanderbilt, a somewhat familiar voice called out. The staff member ran over, out of breath, and stopped in front of her. Please come with me. Where's Oliver? She said lightly, feeling as if her feet were on clouds, unable to touch the ground. I want to see him. I brought him a lot of flowers. He'll like them. Okay, I'll take you to see him. The staff member's face showed a hint of pity. This way. Sophia followed him into the interior of the morgue. Her ears were filled with the humming of machinery and occasional crackling sounds. For the first time, she felt a strange curiosity. What's that sound? The staff member used to it. Took a moment to understand. Oh, that's the sound of the incinerator. Thank you, Sophia replied. She felt colder and colder. A staff member's breath formed a small white cloud. Sorry, the cold storage is kept at this temperature even in summer. Otherwise, the bodies would spoil. Please accept my condolences. What bodies? Sophia said softly. I don't want to see any bodies. I want to see Oliver. Okay, this way, please. Sophia finally saw me. I was lying on a narrow gurney, my face pale but peaceful, looking as if I were in a deep sleep. The footsteps of the morticians moving back and forth, the humming of the cold storage machinery, none of it seemed to affect me in the slightest. Sophia watched me quietly, then said, Oliver. I didn't respond. She seemed confused, frowned, and called out again. Oliver, stop playing around. I know I was wrong, but this is unlucky, isn't it? Don't punish me like this. Her voice was so soft, as if she were afraid of disturbing someone's dream. The staff member, unable to bear it, took a step back and said quietly, Miss Vanderbilt, the police have already investigated. We couldn't reach you yesterday. Mr. Oliver committed suicide by jumping. There is complete surveillance footage from the rooftop, and homicide has been ruled out. Please accept our condolences. Sophia paid no attention. She gently placed the flowers aside and knelt beside the low, narrow gurney, pleading, Oliver, please wake up. Don't scare me. I really know I was wrong, Oliver. Tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes, dripping onto the man's heavily powdered cheek. Open your eyes and look at me. Her trembling hand reached out to touch my cold, lifeless face. Her expression so vacant it was as if she couldn't comprehend the situation, calling my name over and over. The staff member's heart ached, and he and the mortician quietly withdrew. They discussed in low voices. They all say Miss Vanderbilt loves her husband very much. It seems to be true. Yeah, she still can't accept that he's dead. Why would someone jump from a building like that? How should I know? If I had a wife and a life like that, I wouldn't want to die. The calls didn't stop, even when her voice became hoarse and her throat bled. Sophia remained kneeling on the cold floor, softly calling my name. When she could only manage a whisper, she stared silently at the corpse. The tear tracks on her face, already dry. You lied to me, she said softly. Oliver, how could you leave me? A very light kiss landed on my lips. She tasted the salty bitterness of her own tears and stood up, dizzy. The staff member came back in and said tactfully, Miss Vanderbilt, what are your plans? I will cover the costs. Her voice was so hoarse it was almost inaudible. I will have a car come to take him away shortly. Of course, Miss Vanderbilt. My condolences. Why did everyone keep telling her to accept their condolences? Sophia thought. Her Oliver was just throwing a tantrum. She would take me back and coax me gently, and slowly, one day I would soften and forgive her. The news of my death by falling from the building took nearly a week to spread, because during that time Sophia acted too much like a normal person. She continued to go to the office on time, to handle business, and attended countless parties and banquets. It was only when people asked about me that she would smile a little helplessly and say, "I did something wrong, and he's mad at me." People understood and would often joke with her after a couple of drinks. She would raise her wrist to check her watch and say politely and apologetically, "I should be heading home." You know, a husband who gets angry easily won't tolerate a wife who comes home late. "Make Oliver happy soon," they would say kindly. We haven't seen him in a while, so when the news broke, everyone was shocked. A week ago? Am I remembering correctly? Just yesterday, Sophia told me she was going home to be with her husband. What? I even saw her looking down at her phone, texting her husband during a break. She was smiling so sweetly. It couldn't have been an act, right? How do you know the husband she was talking about was the one at home? Let's not be so malicious. I don't think Sophia is the type to have a boy toy. Amidst all the gossip, Sophia seemed completely unfazed. By the time she got home, it was already dark. She sighed helplessly. "I'm home late. He's going to be mad at me again," but the smile on her lips was sweet. Just as she placed her finger on the fingerprint scanner, someone wrapped their arms around her waist from behind, their cheek pressing against her back as they said pitifully, "Sophia, why didn't you come find me?" A jolt of panic shot through Sophia. She reflexively shoved him away, her voice cold. "Who let you come here?" "Sophia." Peter bit his lip, his face full of concern. "I know you're having a hard time right now. Can't I be here to comfort you?" "Get out," Sophia said angrily. "Do you want me to ruin everything?" "Peter, if Oliver finds out, he'll be even angrier with me, and I will never forgive you. Get out." Peter screamed as she pushed him, causing him to fall down the steps. His expression twisted in a sob. No one wanted Oliver to leave like this. "Please don't be like this. Can I take his place and be with you?" The only answer he received was Sophia's suddenly cold gaze. He watched as she leaned down as if to kiss him, but the chilling smile in her eyes sent a shiver down his spine. Then, a hand closed around his neck. Peter had always known Sophia was a national-level athlete. He was being choked, his face turning red and then purple, struggling painfully for air. Sophia whispered, "If I see you again, I will bury you." He was thrown heavily to the ground, letting out a sharp cry of pain. Sophia didn't even glance at him as she turned and went inside, leaving Peter with a look of utter disbelief. When he learned of my death, his friends had all joked that he finally had his chance to move up. Some even sent messages asking, "Peter, is that husband Sophia rushes home to every day even when the sun is still out actually you?" Of course, Peter hadn't been with Sophia, which made him fear she had already found someone new. So he immediately came over. Whether intentionally or not, Sophia had forgotten to close the door when she went in. He looked at the dark, cavernous living room, a flicker of angry resentment in his heart. Could Sophia really have moved on so quickly after all the love she had supposedly shown for me? He resentfully pulled himself up, his leather shoes making sharp tapping sounds on the steps as he followed her inside. The house was pitch black and the air conditioning was set so low it felt like walking into an ice house. Peter had dressed up to see Sophia today, wearing light, handsome clothes, and now his arms were covered in goosebumps. He cautiously walked in, calling Sophia's name softly, but there was no reply. In the huge villa, the few maids who used to attend to me were gone, leaving only the sound of his own empty footsteps. He heard a very faint footstep and instinctively looked up, only to see Sophia walking in one direction without looking back, her movements swift. "Sophia," Peter called out, but she didn't stop, so he had to hurry to catch up. He felt that the cold in the villa was somehow unnatural, and could only console himself that the AC was set too low. Rubbing his arms and cheeks, he found the room at the very back of the villa, the master bedroom where Sophia and I had lived together. Peter had been here a few times. He knew they would be intimate and affectionate in here. He had once stared at the door with hateful eyes, wishing for my immediate death, but now that I was truly dead, he felt a little hesitant. Could Sophia possibly know that he was the one who had instigated things, causing Oliver to jump to his death in a fit of anger? He clenched his fists in turmoil, but then he heard someone murmuring inside the room. He was startled and quickly held his breath, pressing his ear to the door to listen. It was Sophia's voice, her tone incredibly gentle, speaking softly and intermittently. Peter couldn't hear clearly, only catching fragmented words like, Oliver, husband, I love you. His heart trembled and his eyes widened in disbelief. Could it be that Oliver wasn't dead? Was the news fake? So his jump was just a publicity stunt, just a way to compete with him for Sophia's affection? He wanted to find out. He let out a cold snort from his nose and pouted, about to knock on the door. If I can make him break down once, I can do it a second time. But Peter didn't expect the door to be unlocked. He moved too forcefully, his leather shoes tipping forward, and he stumbled through the door, landing on his knees. He cried out in pain and looked up at Sophia, only to meet a pair of completely emotionless eyes. Sophia looked at him as if he were something dirty. Peter shrank back under her gaze and instinctively looked away toward the person next to Sophia. He saw me lying on the bed, my body stiff and strange. He stood up and said nonchalantly, Oliver, long time no see. I didn't answer him. Peter took a step forward, wanting to put his arm around Sophia's shoulder and act coquettishly as he usually did, but as he got closer, he noticed something was wrong. The person lying on the bed, me, had my eyes closed and a faint red on my lips, which Sophia had gently applied. Besides that, my face was covered in a thick layer of powder, but it couldn't hide the bluish-white color underneath. This was without a doubt a corpse. Peter's hand trembled violently. He took a step back, his throat feeling as if it were being squeezed, unable to make a sound. He wanted to scream, to run, and finally understood the faint, strange smell and the extremely low temperature of the air conditioning when he first entered the villa. But Sophia just looked at him, her expression as calm as a pool of stagnant water. Peter, she said softly, you were the one who showed him those chat logs, weren't you? Peter was speechless, his back was against the wall, and he shook his head desperately, tears welling up in his eyes. After a long standoff, he finally managed to say, his breath catching in sobs, you're crazy. He's already dead. What are you doing? Sophia's expression changed instantly. She stood up and walked toward Peter step by step. He's dead, Sophia said coldly. And whose fault is that, Peter? Tell me, was it you? Peter wanted to run, but his legs were too weak to stand. The shock of seeing a corpse for the first time was greater than he had imagined. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me, Sophia. I was wrong. I shouldn't have provoked him. Please, just take Oliver and bury him. I'm begging you. Sophia had stopped in front of him and whispered in his ear, just as they had done so many times in bed. Peter, I'm at fault, but so are you. Neither of us is getting out of this so easily. She let out a soft, chilling laugh. Peter was so scared he collapsed to the floor, trembling as he looked at her. What are you going to do? Sophia didn't answer. When she left the room, she was clutching a handful of Peter's hair. He had struggled so much that Sophia had a hard time controlling him. Now she was slowly washing her hands. The strands of hair fell into the white ceramic basin, swirling down the drain with the water, getting tangled in the metal stopper. So dirty, Sophia murmured. If Oliver saw this, he would be angry. Peter's disappearance caused no stir in the outside world. He had come to the city with nothing, a desperate gamble, and had ended up completely dependent on Sophia to survive. By the time people noticed something was wrong with Sophia, a month had passed. Why haven't we heard about Sophia holding a funeral for Oliver yet? Has he already been buried? Buried? What are you talking about? Just yesterday, she told me she was bringing food home for Oliver. Honestly, at first I thought it was sweet, but now it's getting a little creepy. Their conversation abruptly stopped as the subject of their discussion walked toward them, holding her phone. You don't like it? She raised an eyebrow with a surprised expression, then smiled. But I already brought it back. What should I do? Fine, I'll deal with it myself. Her tone was doting and a little helpless, and she seemed to be in a very good mood. The two exchanged a look and boldly approached her. Miss Vanderbilt, who are you talking to on the phone? My husband, of course. Sophia smiled and shook her head. He said he liked this flavor before, and now he doesn't want it. He's so mischievous. Haha, sounds like a sweet problem to have. Sophia smiled, nodded, and walked away. After she left, the two looked at each other, a chill running down their spines. I'm home. Even if no one answered, Sophia would say this the moment she took off her shoes. But in the past, I would have come out to greet her, take her coat, and give her a smiling kiss. Sophia should have been used to life without me by now, but at this moment, she felt a little lonely. She placed the bag of pastries in the center of the living room. A man was kneeling on the floor, arranging the glistening lilies on the table. The thin white shirt he was wearing looked very familiar. I gave a slightly shy smile. Sophia. For a moment, Sophia thought she was seeing me as I was when we first got married. Her eyes widened, and she instinctively took a step forward, but the man flinched, and the iron chain on his ankle rattled. Her movement stopped, and the man's face instantly turned pale as he fell at her feet. Sophia. Sophia bent down, her fingers pinching his cheek. A muscle in her forehead twitching, a furious, twisted expression formed on her face, but her voice was very soft. How dare you? She enunciated each word through gritted teeth. How dare you wear his clothes? You're in on this with him too. Peter was slapped so hard, he hit the corner of the coffee table. The vase of lilies fell to the floor with a crisp crash. He flinched violently, and, ignoring the dizziness, he hugged Sophia's legs and cried out pleadingly. Sophia, I beg you, let me take his place. I'll take his place, okay? Get out. Sophia shoved him away, roaring. You're not worthy of wearing my husband's clothes. What are you? Take them off now. Peter could only tremble as he took off the shirt. He huddled naked on the side of the sofa, crying. Sophia, I really know I was wrong. I really do. I'll let you stay here with Oliver. What are you doing? Sophia asked. Peter shook his head, sobbing. He was about to be driven mad. Sophia gave him food and water every day and didn't abuse him, but whenever she left the house, Peter would be locked in the room with the cold corpse. For all these days, I had been moved from the room with the AC on its lowest setting to a coffin-like cryogenic freezer every day and night. He was terrified by every rustle of the wind in the villa. He couldn't sleep. His eyes were full of bloodshot veins, and he was on the verge of a breakdown. He was constantly afraid that I would climb out of the freezer and tell him it was all his fault. Seeing his terror, Sophia said softly, Peter, Oliver saw you trying to seduce me today. He let out a terrified scream, unable to take the torment any longer, and was about to faint, but Sophia grabbed his ear and laughed. You don't even know how to fight back at this level, Peter. You deserve this. Something flickered in Peter's eyes, but it was hidden by his tears. He cried and begged. Sophia, just let me go. Let you go? Who's going to let me go? As if bored, Sophia murmured and turned to leave. But Peter suddenly pulled her, and a shard of porcelain from the broken vase slashed across Sophia's neck, blood instantly gushing out. It's okay, said Hannah, a close friend of Sophia's, patting her on the shoulder. That Peter guy has been locked up. You've had a hard time lately. Sophia's face was pale, and she quietly shook her head. She couldn't speak yet, her neck wrapped in thick gauze, looking completely exhausted, dazed, and harmless. Hannah looked at her old friend's current state, her heart aching. She tried to comfort her. I know you love Oliver very much. The people can't be brought back from the dead. Don't be so obsessed. He wouldn't want to see you like this either. I will bury him, Sophia typed. I just can't bear to part with him. Hannah sighed and patted her shoulder again. I'll have my friend try to get Peter a life sentence. You need to move on, you know. Sophia nodded. Hannah was still busy with these matters, so after a few more words of advice, she left. Once the hospital room was completely quiet, Sophia turned her head and stared out the window. The leaves on the trees outside were already yellow and withered, occasionally drifting into the room. Even though one matter was resolved, Sophia's heart felt empty, as if she were walking on air. It had been a whole month since I left. She was still unwilling to bury me, simply because she held on to a sliver of hope that a miracle might happen one day. But even though she dreamed of me every night and looked at my pale, lifeless body every day, there was no sign of me coming back to life. She gently closed her eyes. The recurring sharp pains made it impossible for her to find peace even in her shallow dreams. I'm dead. Everyone kept telling her I was dead, but Sophia still refused to believe it. She saw my back in a crowded street. I was laughing and talking with a boy next to me, looking very happy. Sophia wanted to call my name, to ask me to wait for her, but her feet felt as if they were encased in concrete, unable to move an inch. She watched them walk away, and then she suddenly heard a voice. Protagonist, I told you that you would regret it. Yes, I said faintly. I shouldn't have overestimated anyone. At least I have another chance to go back. The mechanical voice said, but there are conditions and a price. Can you accept that? Of course. Sophia woke up with a jolt. Outside the window, the autumn sky was clear and crisp. She sat up, a sudden understanding dawning on her. On her way, she saw many nurses and doctors and patients of all kinds. With every step she took, she saw everything around her dissolving into specks of light, until she was standing on the rooftop. The hospital's railing was hard to climb. She rolled up her sleeves, revealing arms covered in scars. She had thought about death many times, but she had never imagined that on that day, death would allow her to see me again. Is what you said true? She thought in her mind, but there was no response. The wind was so strong she was teetering on the edge, not knowing if what had just appeared in her mind was a hallucination or real. If it was real, she could see me again. If it was fake, she would die if she jumped. But Sophia didn't hesitate. She closed her eyes and fell backward. Come on, Oliver. Leo wrapped his arm around his shoulder, pleading pitifully. Can't you just go with me? I have class, I said with a helpless smile. Pick another time, okay? As long as you agree to go, any time is fine. Leo immediately brightened up. You're my best friend. He bounced away, and I sighed, feeling a little helpless with my childhood friend. It had been 3 months since I returned to my own world. I had died in a car accident before and was sent to another world for a protagonist mission. When I woke up, I found that the system had reduced the severity of my injuries to a minor concussion, so I only stayed in the hospital for a few days. I was back to my 23-year-old self, healthy and full of life. When Leo saw I was fully recovered, he begged me to go to a mixer with him to find a girlfriend. But as someone who had just ended an extremely failed relationship, how could I have the heart for a mixer? But since my good friend insisted, I had no choice but to go. Leo showed up at my dorm room at the appointed time. I quickly tidied myself up and was about to leave when he let out a loud cry and tried to spray me with cologne. I know you're handsome, but just washing your face and coming out is a bit too much, don't you think? I'm not looking for a girlfriend, I said, half amused, half annoyed. Come on, let's go. Fine. We went to the KTV together. I had no interest in such childish activities, but I couldn't resist Leo's insistence. The moment we pushed open the door to the private room, I felt a little awkward and hid behind Leo, sneaking in. Soon I saw a familiar face in the crowd. I froze for a moment, then looked away. Why was Sophia here too? Leo whispered in my ear. Do you still like her? If you like her, go for it. To be honest, my feelings for her in the past weren't that strong, more curiosity than anything. Now, thinking back on that innocent and sweet crush, it felt like a lifetime ago. Naturally, I shook my head. You really have changed after that car accident, Leo pouted. Fine, let's sing together later. No. I immediately refused. I awkwardly picked at the fruit on the table, keeping my head down the whole time. It wasn't until a tipsy Leo came over to me that he said, Have you noticed Sophia is looking at you? I don't think so, I instinctively retorted, but I couldn't help but look in her direction. Sure enough, Sophia was staring at me without blinking. I was stunned, and she immediately curved her lips into a slight smile and pointed at her phone. I looked down and saw she had sent me a message. Feeling better? Scrolling up, I saw my chat history with Sophia, or more accurately, my one-sided conversation history. Sophia's replies were always short and cold. Much better, I typed, taking a sip of sparkling wine. Thanks for asking. Can I come sit next to you? This time, I was truly stunned. The old Sophia couldn't be bothered with me. What was going on now? In the end, I still refused. The private room was too noisy. After 2 drinks, I wanted to go out for some fresh air. I quietly slipped out and stood in the hallway, tiredly looking at my phone, thinking about the lab report due tomorrow. But then someone stood beside me. Oliver. Sophia's voice was low and gentle. Are you not feeling well? No, I'm just a little surprised. Why are you here? Sophia was a popular girl. She never lacked for boyfriends she could get with a snap of her fingers. I was quite curious why she would come to a mixer like this. It's too noisy, Sophia said. I prefer quieter places. That's something we have in common, I said, a little tipsy and less guarded. Then what are you doing here? You're not lacking for boyfriends, are you? I am, Sophia answered bluntly. I came for you. She took a small lily-shaped pendant out of her pocket, so small it swayed in the night breeze, and handed it to me. I looked down at it and suddenly laughed. What's this? Someone told me you like lilies, Sophia said. I went to a dozen flower shops, but they were all sold out. This was all I could find. If you had given me real lilies, I wouldn't have taken them, I said faintly. From now on, I don't like lilies anymore. In her mind, Sophia replied, See? I told you. The system was silent for a long time. Where did you get this database? It's both accurate and inaccurate, Sophia said with some dissatisfaction. Should I even listen to you anymore? What if Oliver gets scared off? I'm sorry, the system replied after a long pause. I will try my best to give you more accurate information. What was your name again? Chloe, the system said. My previous name was Chloe. After waking up, Chloe found that she had become the protagonist system. She could indeed see me through the girl's eyes, but she could only be a system, a guide teaching Sophia how to love me. She no longer had a body or the ability to move freely. The only thing she had was the experience of all those years with me. She knew what I liked to eat, what I liked to watch, what kind of flowers and what kind of person I liked, but she could never personally tell me anything anymore. Sophia walked me back to my school and smiled at me. I'll make sure they get Leo home safely. You should rest, okay? I nodded. Thanks for tonight. No problem. On her way back, she was still talking to the system. It's a good thing you have the system, otherwise I might regret it for the rest of my life. As long as I successfully win over Oliver, he won't die, right? Yes. For some reason, she detected a hint of sadness in the system's voice. Please do your best, protagonist, to prevent the target's death. Recommend some more books he likes tonight, Sophia said. I want to get to know him better. Of course, protagonist. I found that Sophia seemed to be pursuing me. I did have a crush on this girl before. To others, it was just a few days ago, but for me, it was a feeling from many, many years ago. I looked at the message from the girl on my phone and silently turned off the screen. Leo beside me immediately exclaimed, Don't you like her? Why are you ignoring her now? I can't like anyone right now, I said softly. I don't want to take the risk. I'm scared. I'm afraid to offer up my heart again only to have it trampled on all bloody and ugly. This isn't a mission world. I don't have a mission that I'll die if I don't complete. Risking everything for a fleeting love is not in my nature. Leo didn't know what had happened to me, but he stopped talking after hearing this. He stared at me for a while, then suddenly hugged me. You have to be okay, Leo said. If you don't like her, then you don't like her. I'll reject her for you. I nodded. So Leo called Sophia and told her that I wasn't in a good state right now, so she shouldn't ask me out anymore. His tone was like a protective mother hen, and I couldn't help but laugh. The girl was silent for a long time before saying softly, Okay. Before Leo hung up, she added, I'll still wait for him, but please tell him not to feel pressured. If he ever wants to hang out, I'll be there for him wherever he wants to go. Leo rubbed his arms, shivering, and said to me, She's so cheesy. Sophia was sure that the old me liked her, so she had kept the pursuit phase very short, but after a car accident, my attitude took a 180-degree turn. She couldn't say she was resentful, just frustrated, and she thought the old her who liked to play hard to get and watch me chase after her was a bit pathetic. The system remained silent, and Sophia frowned, feeling annoyed. Can a car accident really change a person that much? Why is the current Oliver so different from before? She didn't know how sad the system hidden in her heart was at that moment. I was the one who made him like this. When they first got together, I was sunny and cheerful, like a weed growing vigorously. Chloe thought maybe this was fate, making her witness the consequences of her own actions. She hesitated whether to tell Sophia about those things, but the girl quickly pulled herself together. She wasn't afraid of my coldness, but more worried about why my current state was so anxious. Since I didn't want to see her, then she wouldn't. She called a delivery service to send me a book. It wasn't some grand philosophical work, but a lighthearted, easy read. Chloe was stunned and said, He doesn't like to read these. It doesn't matter if he likes it or not, Sophia shrugged. He's been very tired lately. I just want him to be happy. Her goal wasn't to increase her favorability score, but just to make him happy. Chloe's heart ached. She finally understood the difference between herself and the other girl. When I received the book, I didn't, as Chloe had predicted, choose to return it immediately. It took me a week to slowly finish it, and I even took the initiative to send Sophia a message. Why this book? Because I loved it as a child, Sophia replied, a smile on her lips. What do you think? Childish, I replied with just that one word, but she laughed even more happily as if it were a compliment, not a criticism. Chloe, however, knew that for me, I wouldn't engage in such a pointless conversation with someone I had no feelings for. It was clear that Sophia was doing the right thing. The two of them chatted back and forth like this for a few days, and Chloe gradually felt a little lost. After years of marriage, she thought she knew me, but seeing my interactions with Sophia, she realized that I had a side she had never seen. My academic performance was excellent, and I never replied to Sophia's messages during my professional courses. Once Sophia went to my classroom to attend a public lecture with me, but the two of them just sat one behind the other without a single word of exchange. She asked Sophia, "Don't you think this is a waste of time?" "No," Sophia replied. "I'm happy just to be with him." It was the seemingly selfish but not self-serving behavior that was actually increasing my favorability. Sophia never asked Chloe what her current progress was, and even when she occasionally learned the number, she didn't show much excitement. She always said she liked me not just because of this mission. Perhaps this was heaven's punishment for her, Chloe thought. As long as the mission wasn't completed, she would have to watch me gradually let my guard down with Sophia. We were young, beautiful, and full of vibrant love and hope, completely different from her. Perhaps in our later interactions, I did truly fall in love with Chloe, but I knew that from the beginning, I had approached her with a purpose, and she had used such dirty tactics to make me stay. Deception and concealment were the foundation of our love, now blurred and indistinct. She thought that by becoming a so-called system, her heart would no longer feel that strange, dull ache. She had come to this world just to see me one more time, but now this act was like drinking poison to quench her thirst. Every glance, every thought meant that Sophia and I were getting closer. For example, on this bright spring night, 3 months had passed in the blink of an eye. There was no grand pursuit or confession, but our two hearts had grown much closer. Sophia checked the weather forecast and sent a message. "Want to go for a spring outing with me?" Okay. My words on social media were still so few, but when we met, I would give Sophia a very faint smile. It had been 2 weeks since we last met. Sophia asked me, "Is your project finished?" "It's finished," I sighed in relief. "Now I just have to prepare for my graduation thesis." Chloe couldn't help but say to Sophia, "You won't see him after graduation. Aren't you going to hurry up?" "It's okay," Sophia said. "Transportation is so convenient now. I can go find him anytime." Young people are so naive. Distance is the widest barrier in front of love, Chloe thought. But she couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. I didn't know that the person I used to love lived in Sophia's heart. We strolled along the path by the river, and the mountains and fields were covered in blooming flowers. "Sophia," I said with a smile after a long time, "why did you always ignore me before?" Sophia was stunned. She had thought I would ask this question sooner or later, but she still couldn't help but feel embarrassed. "A lot of classmates said you were very handsome," she said softly. "Good grades, but a cold personality. I was happy when you took the initiative to talk to me, but I was afraid that I wasn't the person you thought I was, and that one day, when you got to know the real me, you would find me boring." She was unusually candid, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. I turned my head to look at her for a moment, then burst out laughing. "Okay, I forgive you." So it wasn't that I was completely indifferent to the nature of this matter from the beginning. Now that it was out in the open, I felt much more relaxed. Sophia walked beside me, her breath light. "What about you?" she said seriously. "Why did you suddenly start talking to me? How can someone who likes to read such colorful things be a bad person?" I smiled and said, "That day, someone told me that you specifically asked a boy to give me a ride back to school. I knew then that you couldn't have been maliciously stringing me along." Such a simple conversation. Chloe thought, how long had it been since she had such a quiet chat with me? Our relationship was filled with countless desires, money, fame, and endless social climbing. But the real me was just a young man about to enter society. "I remember your family is also well off," she said to Sophia. "Won't your family require you to marry someone of equal social standing?" "If anyone should be complaining, it should be Oliver complaining about me," Sophia said absent-mindedly. "I got into this university on the lower end of the admission scale. Oliver's IQ is several levels higher than mine, so there could be such pure thoughts and relationships in the world. Perhaps she was the abnormal one. She had lived in a world of extravagance for too long and had forgotten what it was like to communicate with someone face to face. I would notice Sophia's occasional absent-mindedness. I had experienced this before when I was first in the mission world, talking to the system, unable to focus on the scene in front of me. Could it be that Sophia was also just doing a mission now? My long eyelashes trembled, and I looked up at the petals on the treetops, feeling very confused. If I gave my heart again and got hurt, would I choose this path? The answer was probably yes, because I felt that Sophia was not that kind of person. For the rest of the journey, our thoughts were different, but our expressions were calm. We met a few photographers with cameras, and one of them said with a smile, "Let me take a picture of you too. No charge." Sophia looked at me for my opinion. "Do you want to?" "I do," I smiled. "Okay." So we stood side by side very formally. The photographer guided us to get closer, and my hand hovered over her shoulder a few times, my face a little red. Finally, I put my arm around Sophia's shoulder. With a click, we finally had a photo together. The photographer smiled and said, "You two are a perfect match. I wish you all the best." Sophia subconsciously said, "Thank you," and then looked at me nervously, but saw no sign of disgust in my expression. The way down the mountain was not easy. Sophia offered me her hand several times, and I obediently took it. She was visibly happy, her delicate and beautiful face looking even brighter. "Why are you being so nice to me today?" Was I mean, before. I pouted. "I haven't been mean to you, either." Sophia just smiled and didn't answer, but her heart was in turmoil, constantly calling out to Chloe. "I think he's accepting me." The favorability progress is at 60%. Couldn't be called love, but there was definitely something there. Chloe should have been happy for her, but at this moment, she could only remain silent for a long time before letting out a soft laugh. "Congratulations, protagonist." On the way back to her dorm, Sophia said to me, "Your birthday is in 2 weeks, right?" "Yeah." I smiled at her. "What are you getting me? Not another children's picture book, I hope." "No." Sophia looked at me, her eyes bright. "I want to say a few words to you then." She wanted to confess. I quickly understood, smiled and nodded. "But I have to go out of town with my professor for a competition next week. Wait for me to come back, okay?" After saying goodbye, I went back to my dorm. Leo was sitting at the door, blocking my way. His chin up. "Spill it. What stage are you at?" "What stage?" I played dumb and tried to walk in, but Leo blocked me. Fine, I'll tell you. She's probably going to officially confess on my birthday." A grin spread across Leo's face. "Just a while ago, you said you didn't like her and weren't in the mood. You liar, Oliver." "No." I lowered my eyes and smiled. Sophia is really great. Whether I had moved on from the shadow of the mission world or not, I still dreamed of it from time to time. At night, I would be standing on the rooftop, looking down at the endless stream of ant-like vehicles, feeling lost. It was Sophia who told me that I was now standing on the ground, not on a rooftop. She was my first stable anchor in this world, followed by Leo. Leo put his arm around my shoulder and begged for a live broadcast. I couldn't resist and pulled out a photo from my small bag. "Who took this?" Leo exclaimed. "Wow, you guys look so good together." Indeed, the two of us standing under the flowering tree looked like a perfect couple. The candid shot captured our natural smiles, and it looked like it could be submitted to a magazine. I took back the photo, looked down at it, and smiled. A passerby. "The atmosphere looks like you're already dating." "Is there only one photo?" "What about Sophia? She can just print it herself." "You're so silly." We were fooling around in the dorm, and I laughed along. I felt unusually relaxed. Even the upcoming competition didn't seem so scary anymore. Since Sophia came into my life, I rarely dreamed of Chloe anymore. This was the happiest thing for me. When I went to the competition, Sophia came to see me off. We talked for a while through the bus window. After she left, my professor said with a smile, "Girlfriend?" "Not yet," I laughed. "You're so nosy too. You've been single for 4 years. What's wrong with being a little nosy?" My professor had a good relationship with us and would often joke around. "If you get married in the future, remember to invite me to the wedding." Of course. We took a 2-hour high-speed train and then a shuttle bus. After arriving at the hotel, we quickly assigned tasks. I was worried about my competition entry and opened my laptop to check it a few more times. It wasn't until the evening that I noticed Sophia had sent me a text. "I heard there's a huge rainstorm over there. Did it affect you?" The hotel soundproofing was so good I hadn't even noticed. I pulled back the curtains, and outside a fierce storm was lashing against the window. "Are you busy?" Sophia sent another message a few hours later, strictly following the "don't be too clingy" rule I had set before I left. I decided to video call her, but the signal was probably bad due to the storm. Sophia's voice on the other end was intermittent, and she reminded me not to leave the hotel alone. I nodded. Someone knocked on the door, and I said to Sophia, "My professor is probably calling me for dinner. I'll call you back later, okay?" In the end, Sophia never received that video call. An inexplicable unease settled in her heart, and she kept checking her phone as time ticked by. She became anxious and said to the system in her mind, "Why is Oliver not responding? He's probably busy, just wait a little longer." Chloe replied briefly, feeling a little anxious herself. She had been speaking less lately, and Sophia was used to this attitude. She was just feeling lost and had initiated the conversation. For some reason, she had a vague sense of foreboding. Not good. At the same time as Chloe's voice, a news notification popped up on her phone. Sophia usually didn't pay attention to these things, but this time she subconsciously glanced at it. 7.3 magnitude earthquake in Riverton. It felt like someone had hit the back of her head with a club, and her ears were ringing. She couldn't even hear Chloe's screams in her mind. The phone fell to the floor with a clatter, and then she picked it up with trembling hands. Oliver was at the epicenter. She didn't have time to speak and ran out of her dorm. After walking a few steps in a daze, she quickly turned back to grab her coat, bank card, and car keys. "Are you going?" Chloe's tone was serious. "Sophia, there will be another earthquake in Riverton later. It's very dangerous. Think carefully." "Of course," she replied, almost shouting. "I have to go, no matter how dangerous it is." "Fine," Chloe said calmly. "I can detect Oliver's location from here. You know which hotel he's at, right? When you get there, I'll give you his precise location." Sophia didn't have time to speak and drove her car from the garage onto the highway. "Calm down," Chloe said. "You absolutely cannot get into an accident. If something happens to you, who will save Oliver?" Hearing this, she finally eased off the accelerator, which was hovering on the edge of speeding. As she neared Riverton, the car could no longer go any further. The rain was still pouring, and most of the city's buildings had collapsed, looking like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Sophia took a few deep breaths, her eyes red and swollen. The phone's GPS was inaccurate, and she only knew the general location of the hotel. She said to Chloe, "It's up to you now." Chloe was also panicking, but she knew that if she lost her composure, Sophia would never find him. The real system's sharp warning tones were attacking her brain. She endured the intense pain and pulled up the location. "Go southwest for 15 kilometers, Chloe said intermittently. Fortunately, the hotel was not far from the edge of the highway. 15 kilometers was not an impossible distance to walk, but as she walked, Sophia's tears mixed with the rain and flowed down her face. She was sobbing and couldn't care about anything else. Her lips trembling. "Tell me, is Oliver still alive?" "He's alive," Chloe said. "His vitals are stable." She didn't tell Sophia that as an ordinary system, she didn't have the right to keep the location service on for so long for Sophia to find someone. She endured the intense pain for 2 hours. If her soul could be materialized, it would probably be covered in wounds by now. But Chloe's heart was bright and clear. She was glad she could help Sophia, because helping her meant helping the helpless me at this moment. As long as she could get even a little closer to me, Chloe was willing to do anything. Sophia ran as fast as she could. Her feet were already bleeding from the sharp stones, but she didn't even have a chance to treat them, just rushing toward the place Chloe had indicated. Her nerves were stretched to the limit and her stamina was almost gone, so when she saw the flattened ruins of the hotel, she almost fainted. The hotel's location was good, so there was already a rescue team searching below. Sophia didn't even have time to catch her breath before she rushed into the ruins and started digging. Her fingers were quickly scraped by the concrete and bloodstains fell to the ground, mixing with her sweat and tears, only to be washed away by the rain. Someone behind her shouted, "Where did you come from? Why aren't you wearing a rescue suit?" "Boss, this girl doesn't seem to be from the rescue team." A stranger came up and tried to pull Sophia's shoulder, but she didn't even turn her head and continued digging. The person said angrily, "What are you doing?" "The person I love is down there." Sophia shouted back, "Let go of me." The person was stunned, and a moment later, someone handed Sophia a shovel. She had driven and ridden for nearly a day to get here, and now she didn't even have time to drink water. She dug tirelessly until dawn, when her vision started to blur. The sky finally brightened, and the rain stopped. Sophia's hands were trembling, and her palms were covered in blisters. Then she heard a familiar voice. Sophia? It was like a voice from heaven. She turned her head in a daze and saw a disheveled me, holding a large bundle of medical gauze, looking at her in astonishment. Her legs gave out, and she almost knelt on a steel bar. It's okay, she murmured. You're okay. What are you doing here? I could hardly believe my eyes. I quickly opened a bottle of clean mineral water and helped Sophia drink it. It's very dangerous here, you know. I came to find you. Sophia held my hand and wouldn't let go, her expression a mix of crying and laughing. Then she suddenly hugged me. I was so scared. I was still a little angry just now, but now I only felt soft-hearted. I could see that Sophia was exhausted. I patted her back and said, "Come with me. I've been helping out in that tent over there." Sophia let go of the shovel and realized that her palms were broken, and the pain made her frown. She followed me back to the tent and saw my professor sitting there with a bandage on his forehead. My junior classmates were all helping out. I found some disinfectant and washed her hands, my face still looking a little pale. The professor looked at us and suddenly smiled. "Still say she's not your girlfriend?" "Professor," I paused, helpless. "You're in this state. Can you say a little less?" The professor chuckled and beckoned Sophia to sit down. "You came from the school?" "Yes." Sophia finally had a chance to rest. Seeing the blood-stained gauze on the professor's forehead, she couldn't help but gasp. "Are you okay?" "What could happen to me?" The professor smiled. Fortunately, it was dinner time. I was taking Oliver and the other kids downstairs to eat. We had just walked out when the building collapsed. Sophia listened with trepidation and repeatedly said how lucky they were. "What about your forehead?" "I fell and hit it," he said lightly. "Oliver has already taken care of it." Sophia told the professor to rest well and that I would help him. She immediately stood up and said to the professor, "You should rest." "I'm young, I'm fine. I'll go help him." "Good kid, go ahead." This disaster came so unexpectedly. I called Sophia over, but I didn't actually assign her any tasks. I just dragged over a simple but soft cushion, patted her lips, and said softly, "You're not injured, so you're not suitable to sit there. But you're exhausted, so just rest here." Sophia's heart softened and she held my hand. "Are you hurt anywhere? Are you hungry or tired?" "I'm fine," I smiled. "But your hands are a mess." Sophia's fingernails were all torn and her palms were covered in blisters. My lowered eyes were filled with a faint heartache, and I carefully disinfected her hands again with iodine. "How did you know I was here?" "I was a little curious. I don't think I sent you my location. There's no signal in the city." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. She realized that the voice in her head had been silent for a long time. Her expression was a little worried, and she finally said softly, "No matter what, you believe me, right?" "Yes." I looked at her intently for a moment and then nodded. "I believe you." Hearing this, Sophia's frown relaxed. What did he want to say? Just as he was about to speak, the ground shook again with an undeniable tremor. The medicine bottles on the table all rattled. Someone outside shouted, "Aftershock! Duck and cover! The tent won't collapse." Without thinking, I pulled Sophia into my arms and squatted down with her. As the person outside said, the tent's simple structure wouldn't collapse, but a few of the poles used to secure it came crashing down on my back. I grunted in pain. It's okay," I whispered to her. It didn't hurt. When things calmed down, I saw that her eyes were glistening with tears. "You fool," Sophia said loudly. "Let me see your back." I obediently turned around. It was just a bruise from the poles. Sophia's fingers gently touched my back, and tears welled up in her eyes again. She sobbed, "You're already so badly injured. Why are you still helping me?" I was stunned and replied very softly, "Yeah, I don't know why either." Suddenly, I understood something and hugged her from behind. "Okay, I lose. No matter what you're hiding from me, I'll forgive you." Protagonist, a mechanical voice suddenly appeared in her mind. "Your current favorability is at 87%. Sophia breathed a sigh of relief, turned around, hugged me, and kissed my dusty cheek. "Okay, you should rest too." I hummed in agreement, my eyes still wet. "Where did you go just now?" For some reason, Sophia felt that the system's electronic voice seemed a little dejected. She remembered its silence just now and was a little confused. "Do you guys run out of battery too?" "You could say that," Chloe said softly. "Congratulations." When she finally woke up, the first thing she saw was me holding Sophia tightly. She was jealous and in pain, but at the same time she was genuinely happy for me. Sophia really liked me. I wouldn't be hurt again. My competition was of course ruined. After the roads were cleared, we all went back to school. On the way, Sophia held my hand tightly, as if she were afraid of losing me again. I sighed for the city and for my competition. The professor patted my back and comforted me. You'll have more outstanding achievements in the future, don't worry. I nodded and said to the professor, take care of your health. We got into Sophia's car and, looking at the familiar streets outside, I had a feeling of being in a different world. I noticed that the road was becoming more and more unfamiliar and turned to look at Sophia. Where are we going? Sophia smiled and said, I'm kidnapping you. Then try your best. I snorted and took out my phone, suddenly realizing that it was my birthday. I already knew our destination, but I still felt a little surprised. The spring breeze on the riverbank blew through the green willows. I saw Leo and two of my roommates, as well as some classmates and a few junior students I was close to. They had been waiting here for a while and greeted me with a smile. Happy birthday. I turned my head sharply to look at Sophia beside me, surprised. We were together the whole time. When did you set this up? Before we left, Sophia held my hand and smiled. Get out of the car. It was already evening, and a few friends slowly pushed a cake toward us. The candles on it clearly showed my age. The moment I closed my eyes to make a wish, fireworks went off by the river. I thought to myself, I had seen bigger scenes and more exquisite and expensive birthday celebrations in the mission world, but none of them had moved me as much as this moment. I opened my eyes and saw Sophia looking down at me in front of the fireworks. Although she had confessed once before, she still wanted to say, Oliver, I like you. She was holding a bouquet of flowers, not white lilies. My eyes were a little red, and I tried to smile. Such an old-fashioned confession, but I accept. As my words fell, along with the cheers of the crowd, a lonely electronic voice announced, Congratulations, protagonist, the favorability has reached 90%. The mission is complete. After eating the cake and watching the fireworks, a few friends pushed me toward Sophia and left with a mischievous smile. We walked along the river bank and, looking at the gradually lit-up city lights in the distance, I said softly, You told me you have a secret. Can you tell me now? Sophia wasn't sure, but she didn't want to hide it from me. Although she knew he might not believe her, telling me the truth was something Sophia had to do. She called out to Chloe in her mind a few times, but there was no response. She walked silently on the road. My hand was wrapped in Sophia's. She said, No matter what the secret is, you have to believe me. I have never lied to you. I know. I smiled faintly. Sophia, are you talking about a mission? Sophia's eyes widened in disbelief. I should have told you earlier. A lonely voice echoed in her mind. Oliver won't disbelieve you, because he was once a protagonist, too, and his target was me. Sophia was so surprised she couldn't speak for a moment. I looked at her expression and knew I had guessed correctly. I tilted my head and said to Sophia, You didn't just appear out of nowhere, so you probably didn't come to this world because of a mission, right? I'm guessing it's because of my car accident, right? Yes, Sophia nodded. Why did you guess that? Because that's when your attitude completely changed. At that time, the system told me that I had to pay a price. At first, I didn't know what the price was, but now that I think about it, it was probably becoming your mission target. My tone was extremely calm, which made Sophia a little scared. She tightened her grip on my hand, her voice a little tight. But I like you, not because of some mission, it's... Before she could finish, a very light kiss landed on her lips. You don't have to explain to me, I said softly. As long as the love is real, that's enough. I hated being deceived the most, but Sophia had never deceived me from beginning to end. She said she loved me, and that was true, and that was enough. Sophia's eyes were a little red. She had thought a series of events would follow, but none of them happened. Okay, she thought. She was still in a dream. Her mission was complete. From now on, I wouldn't have a Damocles sword hanging over my head. She could love me with all her heart. My eyes looked at her quietly, and then a smile appeared. Sophia couldn't hold back anymore and raised her head to offer her cheek. I lowered my head and kissed her lips. I tasted the salty bitterness of her tears, but more than that, I tasted her sweetness. When we both calmed down, we sat on a public bench. Sophia heard a ticking countdown in her mind and asked in surprise, What's this? I'm leaving, Chloe said calmly. Thank you for completing this mission. I did a lot of wrong things to Oliver in the past, and in the end, I couldn't really make up for them. Sophia, I hope you will treat him well for the rest of your lives. She wasn't just leaving, she was dying. Ordinary systems could move on to the next world after their protagonist completed their mission. They had the right to take a vacation. But Chloe was different. She wasn't from this world, and she wasn't a real system. After using up all her energy, her soul would dissipate, and she would no longer exist in this world. Before she left, she looked at me one last time through Sophia's eyes. She said to the main program, "I have one last wish." The main program said, "If it's not too outrageous, I can grant your request." "I want Oliver to forget me," Chloe murmured. "Forget all the pain I brought him. This is another world, isn't it?" After a long time, the program agreed to her request. "My system has a name," Sophia said tentatively, looking at me. She said her name was. Her brain throbbed, and it felt like something had completely slipped away. Sophia said softly, "Chloe?" No one answered. I frowned, feeling that the name was a little familiar, but I couldn't remember it. "It doesn't matter." I patted the dust off my clothes and intertwined my fingers with Sophia's. "Let's go back to school, okay? I love you." "Me too."